Baltimore police confirmed the first murder victim of the year is a 16-year-old boy. New today, we hear from shaken neighbors who knew him and the family's unanswered questions over their tragic loss. Threats of heavy showers and strong winds puts us in a weather alert for tomorrow. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax is timing out the impact hour by hour and breaking down which areas could see flooding.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
But when you have a violent offender commit a violent act, all of a sudden he don't know better. That is insane to me.
The concerns over juvenile crime hitting a boiling point as lawmakers prepare to gather in Annapolis for the 2024 legislative session. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. In just the first 8 days of the new year, 2 people have been killed in Baltimore City. The first homicide was sadly a 16-year-old. According to the police department, 16-year-old Noah Gibson was found shot to death in Southwest Baltimore January 2nd.
The violence comes as we hear more frustration over performance from the Department of Juvenile Services. This is a topic expected to be front and center during the legislative session, set to begin on Wednesday.
We have team coverage beginning with Alexa Ashwell. She spoke with the teen's family and joins us live with the latest on the investigation. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, Mary, we spoke off camera. Noah Gibson was a student here at Carver Vocational Technical High School. We're told he was shot and killed about 3 weeks. He had just turned 3 weeks prior to his homicide. The family left with many unanswered questions. He was shot and killed just about 1.5 miles away from this school where we are right now. According to police, the teen was found shot in an alley off Gorman Avenue near West Fayette Street in Southwest Baltimore January 2nd. Investigators say officers responded to the area after receiving a shot spotter alert around 2:15 that morning, then later found the teen's body. Neighbors told us they recalled hearing those gunshots but didn't realize someone had in fact been killed. We even have audio from one woman's back alley camera that captured about 5 gunshots. Investigators have not said what they believe led up to this shooting. Gibson's neighbors say they are troubled by the teen's death.
It was a shame. Anytime I hear anything about, your youngsters like that, getting killed, something like that, I say it's a shame. All that I do is just shake my head about it and just hope that it stopped one day. They've been living there for maybe about a year. I've been knowing just about a year. I know she's probably gone crazy, probably done lost it, probably. Somebody probably with her now, probably holding her.
That neighbor there speaking about Noah Gibson's mother sending his condolences to the family. Investigators have not yet released any suspect information. More on the victim, Noah Gibson, at 5. For now, reporting live in Southwest Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, juvenile crime is expected to be a main topic during the legislative session. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live now with news of a policy proposal from the governor about juvenile crime. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, that's right. Governor Wes Moore is expected to unveil his juvenile crime proposal as well as his public safety legislative priorities tomorrow. This is expected to come during a news conference where the governor, I'm told, will stand with Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi as well as other state leaders. Now, all of this comes amid intense criticism of how DJS is handling this surge of juvenile crime and the push for more accountability for young offenders. This news conference slated tomorrow is also coming at a time where we know there is some staff shakeup happening within DJS. As you know, we've reported that the intake director at the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center has been replaced. That shakeup happened after lawmakers from Baltimore City, including Senate President Bill Ferguson, sent a letter to DJS demanding to know why a policy wasn't followed that allowed 2 teen suspects who were allegedly involved in an attempted robbery as well as an assault were released without facing any charges. Now, tomorrow's news conference will really bring all eyes back to the governor to see what he decides to do with the department and where his priorities lie ahead of Wednesday when the legislative session begins. Mary?
Mackenzie, is there any indication as to what Governor Moore will ask lawmakers to tackle?
That's really the big question, and right now the Moore administration is staying pretty tight-lipped. But we do know that this is also coming on the heels of that big proposal push from the Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, as well as the Prince George's State's Attorney Aisha Braveboard. We saw the two of them team up to push their own legislative priorities and packages, urging lawmakers to take up some of these issues, specifically when it comes to juvenile crime. And we talked to the two of them before they made this big announcement publicly, really taking issue with one of the juvenile laws, specifically the Juvenile Interrogation Act.
The way the law is now is that the only thing that needs to happen is that the police must call a hotline that's staffed by a public defender. The attorney who's physically there will listen to the information, listen to the evidence, and will have the dialogue with the child and the child's parents to do what's going to be best for that child.
The ultimate goal is not to lock everyone up forever. The ultimate goal is rehabilitation, but how can you have rehabilitation without accountability? And that's what we're looking for.
We also know that Bates and Braveboy are also pushing for changes to the length of probation for the juveniles under the supervision of DJS. So tomorrow, this news conference, all eyes will be on the governor, and we'll be there and we'll let you know what happens. But for now, we're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Fox 45 News is holding a Your Voice, Your Future town hall this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on juvenile crime. Top prosecutors, including Ivan Bates, Aisha Braveboy, Scott Schellenberger, and Rich Gibson, will join us to discuss their legislative priorities for session 2024. Again, that's this Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can watch it live on foxbaltimore.com.
Plus, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will be in Annapolis following every step of this year's legislative session over the next 3 months. Keep up with our coverage on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Yesterday, we asked, what's your biggest concern as lawmakers return to Annapolis? The Department of Juvenile Services, juvenile crime, a budget deficit, all of the above, or something else. 89% of those who voted said all of the above.
And that brings us to our question of the day for today. If lawmakers don't change the juvenile crime laws, should they be recalled? This poll just opened. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
For the first time in 9 years, Baltimore has seen the number of people killed below 300 in 2023. Many believe Ivan Bates' tough on crime approach is part of the reason for that drop. Policies that Mayor Brandon Scott he supports. But as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, critics say he was less than vocal when it came to addressing the very different policies of Marilyn Mosby. Rebecca?
Yeah, now that the city's homicide rate is seeing significant improvements, Mayor Scott has been eager to embrace a new city state's attorney. But when given the opportunity to denounce the previous administration, time and time again, Mayor Scott remaining silent.
Following almost a decade of shockingly high homicide rates, Baltimore City ushering in a new tough-on-crime state's attorney.
Well, if you're breaking the law, you're going to walk around for legal handguns on the streets, bring your toothbrush with you, because we're going to send you to jail.
Immediately after taking office, Ivan Bates throwing out the progressive non-prosecution policies of his predecessor, Marilyn Mosby.
Clearly, the data suggests that there is no public safety value in prosecuting these low-level offenses.
But in Bates's first year, new data revealing Baltimore City's annual homicides finally falling below 300 for the first time in 9 straight years, marking the largest single-year homicide reduction in the city's history.
I knew deep in my heart that we needed to do something different.
Mayor Brandon Scott now throwing his full support behind the changes made under the Bates administration. But when pressed on Mosby's policies in the past, time and time again, Scott refusing to speak out.
I am focused about my work. I don't have time with the amount of stuff happening in Baltimore to worry about other people's work.
Are you saying that the state's attorney's office isn't doing their job?
No, I'm saying that we, as I've said to you before, Mackenzie, that what we are doing, what I am doing is ending these generations of fingerprints. I'm not going to continue to get dragged into this progressive versus this versus that. I do what's best for Baltimore.
According to political analyst Richard Vatz,
I do think he's trying to take credit for an accomplishment that is not majorly his.
The mayor's silence may have prevented the last year's historic crime reductions from happening sooner.
He appears to genuinely want to reduce violence, but he doesn't appear to ever be willing to take courageous steps. one of which would be when he had an totally irresponsible state's attorney, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say anything even half critical of her until she's out of office.
And even with Mosby now out of office,
To blame one person or give one person the credit is a false narrative. We did the work.
But in terms of accountability, and could we have gotten here sooner, do you think it would have helped to call out those selective prosecution policies?
I don't think you hear me very clearly. I don't do performative stuff. That's not me. I focus on the work.
Mayor Scott still unwilling to answer when asked if his support for the former state's attorney could have hurt the city's crime fight.
He often avoids that question because he is very, very resolute in not accepting any criticism of his policies. He could have had a change in Baltimore's situation a long time ago.
And over the last 2 years, Fox 45 has sent the mayor's office dozens of questions pressing him on Mosby's selective prosecution policies. Not once did he speak out against them. Reporting live from City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. 8 days into the new year, and Baltimore City has seen more than 100 car thefts. Over the weekend, a series of break-ins happened outside of a church in East Baltimore. Police say those break-ins happened during a worship service yesterday, and one of the cars was apparently stolen from the lot. Days before that, police arrested 3 teens in connection to an armed carjacking in Northwest Baltimore. Investigators say the teens carjacked a man at gunpoint on Park Heights Avenue and were arrested hours later after an officer spotted them and the stolen car a few miles from Reisterstown Road. That case marked the 6th carjacking that was reported in 2024. Police data shows the city surpassed 11,000 car thefts in 2023. Some critics say addressing the problem should be a top priority for state lawmakers.
It's a serious public safety hazard because these cars they're stolen. Usually it's juveniles that are doing it.
Lawmakers could certainly make sure that those that are caught stealing cars get punished and get punished properly.
Well, police are investigating the car break-ins and the car that was stolen outside the church. If you have a story about a stolen car or know someone who's been impacted by the spike, we'd like to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send us an email at news@foxbaltimore.com.
Today, Maryland Safe Haven, a leading advocacy organization for transgender rights, held a rally demanding accountability for Megan Lewis, the transgender victim who police say was shot and killed by a delivery driver in Hartford County. Now, back in December, police say the suspect, 47-year-old Brian Dellin, and Lewis were arguing in the parking lot when Dellin shot Lewis, according to police. The group is calling for accountability and transparency while also demanding equal justice for transgender people.
Hartford County is sending a message to LGBTQ folks at the end of the day that they're not giving out justice to transgender people. As a sanctuary, Maryland, we expect to get justice right here in this backyard. Hartford County, is this the message that you're putting out to LGBTQ folks? Is it safe in Hartford County for LGBTQ folks to find this place as a sanctuary, as Maryland said it was a sanctuary? Hartford County is showing at the end of the day that our gender identity means nothing. A person is out today on murder charges on his personal recognizance. That is unheard of. I've seen many folks locked up for theft and their bond was revoking. Today we stand in solidarity with our trans sibling to say at the end of the day, we need justice for Megan Lewis, and please, Hartford County, do not sweep this under the rug.
In a statement just this morning, the Hartford County State's Attorney said in part, the loss of any life in our community is devastating. The evidence in this case will be thoroughly evaluated in the same manner as any case presented to our Office for Prosecution. And as always, the State's Attorney's Office remains committed to seeking justice. In the meantime, Dellin is facing multiple charges, including second-degree murder.
Well, tomorrow we will be on weather alert as we track our next weather maker.
And we could see some heavy rain, strong wind, and coastal flooding. Oh, boy.
That's right. Let's bring in meteorologist Jasmine Lomax for a look at your timeline. Hi, Jasmine.
Hey, Mary and Kai. We are keeping a close watch on that system that's already leading to impacts around the country. Now, for us, those impacts are going to start tomorrow as that system leads to snow in western Maryland around the Baltimore area. We're starting the day with rain. As we continue into the afternoon, that heavy rain still moves across the state, and even into the evening, still dealing with some lingering rain. If you do have any plans to be anywhere, you certainly want to make sure that you're driving safely and staying weather alert. This is going to lead to a washout for the day tomorrow. Now here's a look at that system. We're seeing rain and storms ahead of that, even snowy conditions. It's a powerful weather maker that's going to lead to heavy rain, possibly some coastal flooding and even gusty winds. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing and impacts of the storm system in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead, families of young people who have lost their children to gun violence speaking out on the Department of Juvenile Services. Why critics argue the Secretary of the Department is out of touch. And the Ravens looking ahead to the playoffs after a loss to the Steelers. Morgan Atzep breaking down how the team is getting prepared.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Sunday afternoon, the AFC playoff field was set with 7 teams in. By late last night, seeding and the wild card weekend schedule came out. 3 games the Ravens will be sitting at home watching as they enjoy their playoff bye as the 1 seed. Unlike 2019, when Russ played a factor the last time the Ravens won the AFC North and had home field advantage for the playoffs and got bounced in the divisional round, the Ravens will practice a full week this postseason starting Wednesday. It's a bye week mentality while keeping the main thing, playoff run.
Now we have an opportunity and a challenge to take it into the postseason and play the best football that we possibly can. And I'm excited for our guys to do that, and I know they're going to work hard to prepare to do that.
We've written a lot of pages in our book right now that set us up pretty good right now. So, you know, we got a week to prepare, then find out who we got to play, then we go into that.
Here's the AFC playoff picture. Ravens on that bye. Other division winners, the Bills, Chiefs, and Texans. The wild cards, 2 in the AFC North with the Browns and Steelers. Miami in the middle as the 6th seed. Browns, Texans, and Dolphins, Chiefs Saturday. The AFC wild card weekend ends Sunday with the Steelers, Bills. The Ravens find out Sunday their opponent. Date and game time. The divisional round is here either January 20th or 21st. As the 1 seed, the Ravens get the lowest AFC team remaining after the wild card round. And due to that 4-5 matchup, it cannot be the Bills or Chiefs, but it could be the Browns, Texans, Dolphins, or Steelers. All teams they face this season going 3-3 against them.
Morgan, thanks. Win or lose, we want to see how you're celebrating the Ravens as they prepare for the playoffs. Just scan that QR code right there on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com where you can upload your pictures and videos. It is all powered by Stackline. Jasmine was just talking about another powerful storm is slamming the Northeast this week on the heels of last weekend's nor'easter. Forecasters say flooding and damaging wind can knock out power for millions of Americans from New England through the mid-Atlantic states. Heavy rain will hit the mid-Atlantic and Northeast tomorrow, bringing threats of flash flooding. 1 to 3 inches are expected in the Baltimore region. In Washington, Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston, they have lots of snow. Well, the rain will likely end Wednesday, but a flood threat will be still in effect. Let's bring in meteorologist Jasmine Lomax breaking down the storm system, letting us know what we can expect tomorrow. Jasmine, what time do we think this rain will start?
Thanks, Mary. It's going to be kind of an all-day event. The rain's going to start in the morning. Some of those showers pre-dawn, then past sunrise, we really start to see the rain chances increase, and there could even be some areas of heavy rain. So you want to make sure that you are driving safely. Now, it's been a nice and quiet day today ahead of that next system. 49 currently with mostly cloudy skies, and around the state we're seeing temperatures mainly in the 40s. It's nice and quiet. We'll stay quiet overnight. We've had high pressure over the region keeping us dry, but now we're shifting our focus to this low pressure system. It's a very powerful weather maker that's leading to areas of snow and even storms across parts of the country. There have been a few confirmed tornado warnings ahead of that cold front. So this powerful weather maker will continue to move toward the East Coast, and it's going to lead to our next chance for rain, which could be heavy at times. We already have several alerts issued ahead of that system. We're under a flood watch through Wednesday morning. We're also looking at a coastal flood warning. We could have inundation along coastal areas and low-lying areas. We could notice some ponding. And we're also talking about a wind advisory with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Just to break down the timing, notice that before sunrise, we're tracking a couple of isolated showers, but then around 7, 8 o'clock, the rain is here and it continues throughout the day. We're looking at the chance for heavy rain at times through the afternoon, and then in the evening, still tracking that heavy rain across the state. This is around 6 o'clock, so if you will be driving around that time, you maybe want to add some extra time into your commute home as we deal with the heavy rain for a few more hours. It's not until after midnight when that weather maker finally starts to push out of our region. However, there's still the chance for a couple of lingering showers early Wednesday morning. After sunrise, it looks mostly dry with a few clouds. Then by the afternoon, a little more sunshine for a pretty nice day with above average temperatures. In terms of rainfall totals, this could be a big soaker leading up to 2.5 inches across parts of the state. Of course, locally, there could be some higher amounts, and that's what could cause issues with flooding concerns and possibly some inundation in low-lying areas. 35 for the low temperature tonight with more clouds moving in. Then tomorrow, get ready for that weather maker, 57 for the high temperature. And that high of 57 is going to happen later into the evening and in the night. So we'll have rising temperatures throughout the day. Then we're looking at 50 staying above average on Wednesday, 52 with plenty of sunshine on Thursday, and it's followed by another weather maker with showers on Friday and again on Saturday. Then follows a major cool down. We're looking at the 30s next week. Back to you.
Jasmine, thanks. Coming up after the break, presidential candidates hitting the campaign trail, a preview of the final GOP debate and who will and will not be there. Plus, new efforts to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. The charges expected to be pursued. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley will take part in the 5th Republican presidential debate this week. Former President Trump also qualified, but he will not be there. Instead, the Republican frontrunner will participate in a Fox News town hall scheduled for the same time. The CNN debate will be moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. It's happening this Wednesday at 9 p.m. It marks the last chance for candidates to win over voters before the January 15th Iowa caucuses. President Biden's re-election campaign brings in $1 million online donations in the 24 hours after Biden's speech commemorating the January 6th Capitol Hill riot. That's according to The Hill, citing campaign data. During his remarks this weekend, the president focused on what he says is the threat former President Trump poses to democracy in this year's presidential election.
Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never. It has no place in a democracy, none.
It was his first major election speech and was delivered near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, a symbol of the American Revolution. Trump hit back, saying Biden was focusing on that issue because he's unable to defend his own record. Biden sees preserving democracy as a winning issue. Well, the results are in for Friday's national question of the day. We asked, will the events of January 6, 2021 affect your vote for president this year? 31% of viewers said yes, 69% said no. The House GOP is looking to move quickly on impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas earlier this year. This is effectively a shift in focus. Republicans want to impeach President Biden, but there's not enough support in the conference for that kind of move. But moderate Republicans are more open to targeting Mayorkas. The party has not yet revealed what charges they will pursue, but some cite failure to enforce the law.
He has an obligation to uphold the Constitution of the United States and enforce our laws. He has failed miserably in his obligation to both. Our border is as porous as it has ever been.
The DHS says 1.4 million individuals were encountered and removed at the border in 2022, more than any other year. According to CNN, the plan is to run Mayorkas' impeachment through the House Homeland Security Committee. Typically, they go through the Judiciary Committee, but there's more support within the Homeland Security Committee to advance impeachment articles.
All is not well in the state of Maryland.
Still ahead, all eyes on Annapolis as the legislative session gets underway this Wednesday. The concerns surrounding the state budget and what critics argue needs to change this year.
I'm Atrell Nashar in Washington with new comments by President Biden that may suggest a shift in the U.S.'s support for Israel's war in Gaza.
Just 2 days from now, Maryland lawmakers head back to Annapolis for the start of the 2024 session.
That's right. Juvenile crime, a central focus for many across the state, including Crystal Gonzalez. The Baltimore mother lost her daughter in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting and says lawmakers need to act now to prevent future tragedy.
Fox 45's Vincent Hill recently sat down with Ms. Gonzalez and has her message to lawmakers and the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi.
Let's speak on Secretary Schiraldi.
Yes.
He's not seeing what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to see your little girl, her foot under a sheet.
He didn't.
So what would your message to him be directly?
I understand that you've spent a lot of time in school. I understand that you've had all this accreditations and you have all the, let me tell you something. I raised black children. I raised black children in the city. I know what goes on. And it would behoove you to listen more to the people who are in those positions instead of putting your ego out there, right? Because I don't care how much school you've had, until you've been here, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the governor calls him a reformer.
We're clear that when we came into office, we walked into a DJS that was understaffed and underfunded. And it's the reason why I appointed a true reformer.
What's your thoughts of him being called a reformer?
I don't have much to say about that. I mean, I believe we've all seen the evidence of what his practices are. It's not working. It's not working, you know. I don't have much else to say about that. They know right from wrong. So I can hear you tell me that no one, well, a child under the age of 25 shouldn't be in an adult system. Well, here we know we have a lot of adult things that we do between the ages of our teen years and 25. But when you have a violent offender commit a violent act, all of a sudden he don't know better. That is insane to me.
The new legislative session in Annapolis, of course, juvenile crime is going to be one of the main topics, if not the main topic.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from lawmakers at the state level?
You put this in place. So they're obeying the laws that you put in place. And we have to live with the consequences of that. There's no way you can tell me that they can't get a hold on this crime right now. There's no way you can tell me that. They refuse to do it, but meanwhile, they're getting bonuses every year. Their salaries are increasing, and we have a piss-poor performance in the streets of Baltimore.
Do you think we need to just start from ground zero with juvenile laws? Absolutely.
I heard, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but he was responding to something that I said, and he says, you know, I applaud her for speaking out, but we can't go back to some of the practices that have proven not profitable or not beneficial for our communities. And I say to him, you haven't gone back far enough. We haven't gone back far enough, because we didn't have this decades ago.
How often do you talk to Aaliyah?
Yeah. All day long, all day long, all day long. I have to. I've had her with me for 18 years of my life. She is my life. Just like in life I advocated for her, guess what? While we're separated, I'm still going to do it.
What else do you want people to know about Aaliyah?
This is why Aaliyah went to Brooklyn Day block party. My baby laid her life down so we can start to expose all of these broken systems.
Wow. Very powerful statement there from Ms. Gonzalez. That was Vincent Hill reporting, of course. Two of the teens charged in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting were under DJS supervision at the time. One of them, 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, was charged as an adult, but a judge ordered him to be held in a juvenile facility. Well, now Fox 45 News is uncovering more questions about the way DJS operates. Fox 45 News has learned the intake director at the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center was replaced after a letter was sent by Senate President Ferguson and other lawmakers asking why policy wasn't being followed. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi is dealing with what he calls a culture problem inside the department.
I believe, talking to Secretary Schiraldi, he really gets it.
but I also think that he's dealing for culture and DJS, where you have individuals who just don't want to ever, no matter what young people do, ever want to have a young person detained. So he's fighting that culture.
Well, the city state's attorney's office also raising questions about the intake process. Catherine Rosenblatt is the deputy chief of the juvenile division. She says she hasn't seen a uniform process when it comes to making intake decisions.
Currently, they act as a bit of a gatekeeper because it's their intake officers who are making the decision whether the case should be charged immediately or should be charged later, but still charged, or even not charged at all.
Bates is pushing for legislation to remove some of the guesswork from the process, aiming to put the decision in the hands of a judge. Last year, he said nearly a third of the cases sent to DJS should have gone directly to a judge. Fox 45 News pressed the Department of Juvenile Services for more information about the hiring process for intake workers and how many are currently on staff. Well, DJS responded to our request, saying intake officers are case managers and often work in the community. A breakdown of their hiring process and staffing numbers is available right now at foxbaltimore.com.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will be in Annapolis following every step of this year's legislative session for the next 3 months. You can keep up with our coverage on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. Session 2024 begins this Wednesday, as we've been telling you, and state lawmakers will bring their top priorities for debate. One of those priorities is the state budget and the structural deficit. That basically means the state of Maryland is spending more money than it's bringing in. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, we spoke to taxpayer watchdog David Williams about how we got to this point with Maryland's budget and what comes next.
What a difference a year makes. You know, this time last year, a new governor was coming in. There's a lot of optimism, a nice, healthy surplus for the state. And now we're looking at a structural deficit this year of $400 million. And that's going to climb to about $2 billion in the next 6 to 8 years. And when the legislature comes in, a lot of decisions are going to have to be made. And what I'm looking for, Tom, is how they address this and what they talk about. Because at the beginning of these sessions, they like to talk about new programs, spending more money. They can't do that this year because of this deficit. And the governor is going to have to pare back some of his priorities because of this deficit.
David Williams went on to talk about the Kerwin plan and the impact that's having on Maryland. You can find the full interview right now on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Video of a Baltimore County high school teacher smoking an unknown substance with students has people talking.
Take a look at this. This video was recorded last January. It begins with the teenager who Project Baltimore is not identifying because she's a minor. The teen is sitting outside at a table with 3 other people, including 2 other teens, and a woman in a hooded sweatshirt identified as Spraker. 14 seconds into the video, the teenager pauses as Spraker leans over and offers her an unknown substance. The teenager then inhales and blows smoke into the camera. The video ends. Well, Project Baltimore has confirmed all 3 teenagers in the video are students at Parkville High School. The woman in the sweatshirt is listed as 25-year-old Sierra Spraker, a social studies teacher at Parkville High. Project Baltimore spoke with a current Parkville student who are not identifying, who says the teacher's actions are unacceptable.
She's fairly young in her teaching career, so she knows how teenagers think, she knows how they act, and I just thought that it was a disgusting thing to do, knowing that these kids are, I mean, they jump at an opportunity to do that with, you know, the cool teacher.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, what the school system is saying about the video and how this student thinks it should be handled.
Baltimore is ramping up its construction of bike lanes, and in many neighborhoods, they're bringing a huge amount of frustration with them. By the time the city finishes installing bike lanes, city planners estimate the cost will total more than $73 million. Some analysts believe most taxpayers will get little to no return on their money.
It's a lot of expense, and it's not obvious to me that we're actually benefiting society from a broader benefit if the result of this is to cause more vehicular congestion. So cars are sitting in traffic longer, waiting for this light and that light, so on and so forth. Guess what you get? You actually get worse environmental outcomes as you're trying to promote a cleaner environment and more biking.
Traffic lanes are being eliminated to accommodate bike lanes, causing more traffic congestion. Many residents say they were never consulted before the changes were made, and disruption becomes a permanent part of their lives. The city's goal is to have 77 miles of bike lanes complete in the next 4 years. Right now, only a third of that goal is complete. Well, we sent emails to Baltimore City Council asking how many tax dollars are being spent on constructing and maintaining the bike lanes on an annual basis. So far, we have not heard back.
Now we have heard from frustrated residents and former city leaders for months who say bike lanes shouldn't be a city priority. On Harford Road in Hamilton, Fox 45 News spoke to residents who say those lanes barely are used and are leading to unnecessary traffic buildup. On Gwynns Falls Parkway in West Baltimore, not far from us here at Fox 45, 2 lanes of westbound traffic were cut to 1, and there's no lane for emergency vehicles. Former Baltimore Mayor Jack Young signed off on a pro-bike lane proposal 5 years ago, but now says he regrets that decision.
My thought was that we need to have alternative for people who ride bikes to be able to get around the city, but not to the magnitude of this. You know, it's just totally ridiculous how they're building all these bike lanes, putting these flex lanes up, and the streets look a mess.
Well, Young is now calling for a moratorium on bike lanes across the city, along with residents who say they were never consulted about the redesign of roads in their communities. Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on the debate surrounding bike lanes. You can find our coverage online at foxbaltimore.com. Coming up after the break, tensions rise in the Middle East as a top military official is killed in an airstrike.
Plus, the ongoing war is having international impacts. The local groups coming together to demand a ceasefire.
And we're getting ready for our next weather maker. It's leading to areas of rain and snow around the country. I'll let you know when the rain moves in here and how much we could see in my Weather Authority forecast.
A top Hezbollah commander was killed in an Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon on Monday. Israel's military also says it killed a Hamas militant in Syria responsible for firing rockets toward Israel. All of this adds to fears of a bigger conflict breaking out in the Middle East. National correspondent Dr. El-Nashar has the latest on the escalation.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visiting IDF troops Monday near the border of Israel and Lebanon, where a second front of the war could be forming. Netanyahu tells his troops Hezbollah is underestimating them, shortly after an Israeli strike in Lebanon killed Hezbollah commander Wissam Tawil. Many viewing it as an escalation of what's been constant skirmishes between Israel and Hezbollah since the October 7th Hamas attacks.
Hezbollah is dragging Lebanon into an unnecessary war for the sake of Hamas.
Last week, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah said their attacks against Israel are intended to, quote, stop the assault on Gaza.
This is a moment of profound tension in the region.
In his fourth visit to the Middle East since October 7th, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the conflict could easily metastasize.
This is not just a regional issue. It's a matter of global concern.
The region further destabilized by Iran's vow to retaliate for deadly twin bombings last week, for which ISIS has claimed responsibility. Blinken calling out Houthi attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea, which the Iran-backed rebel group says are to counter Israel's attacks on Palestinians. According to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza, more than 23,000 people have been killed since October 7th. Calls for a ceasefire interrupting President Biden's speech at Mother Emanuel AME Church in South Carolina Monday.
I've been quietly working with the Israeli government to get them to reduce and significantly get out of Gaza.
We've heard members of the Biden administration say more needs to be done to protect civilians in Gaza, but that comment you just heard from the president is by far the most direct signal he's made, indicating that he's frustrated with Israel's operations. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Dozens of people gathered for a pro-Palestine rally in Annapolis over the weekend, calling for state lawmakers to support an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. They're also urging lawmakers to support more aid for Gaza as millions of displaced Palestinians are dealing with hunger and a lack of water.
We really want our lawmakers to acknowledge the basic rights and humanity and dignity of Palestinians who have been suffering for many decades under an illegal occupation.
Well, they're also protesting what they call acts of discrimination against Maryland students and teachers who are Muslim or have voiced support for the Palestinian people. You just heard from Zainab Chaudhry. She is the president of Maryland's chapter on the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CARE. Ms. Chaudhry also serves on the state Maryland Hate Crime Commission and was suspended after a series of controversial social media posts, including one comparing Israeli supporters to Nazis. She was reinstated by Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown, who said his office didn't have the power to suspend her in the first place.
We are gearing up for our next weather maker, and it will have impacts on your Tuesday, really for much of the day, as it begins in the morning and continues all the way into the night. 49 and nice and quiet right now with mostly cloudy skies. Around the state, our temperatures are in the 40s for most of us. It's been a pretty nice and quiet day. We had some sunshine. The clouds have started to move in, but thanks to high pressure, we're going to stay dry through the night. However, you can see that strong weather maker that's leading to areas of snow and rain across the country. We're keeping track of this low pressure system. It will move eastward, and as that happens, our rain chances will increase, impacting much of the region. We already have alerts in place ahead of this system, including a flood watch for all of the areas in green. We're keeping watch on coastal areas especially. We could have some minor flooding there, and a coastal flood warning is in place. There's also a wind advisory. We're talking wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour, and those wind gusts could lead to down power lines. You certainly want to make sure that you are staying weather alert tomorrow and have many ways of receiving any alerts that may be issued. You'll notice that overnight we stay mostly dry, but shortly before sunrise, we start with a couple of isolated showers. Around 8, 9 o'clock, the rain is here and it'll continue throughout the day. Around 2 p.m., we're still tracking some spots of heavy rain, and this is around 6 o'clock. If you do have a commute in the evening, heavy rain could have a big impact on your drive home. maybe add some extra time and also make sure that you're driving safely. We'll start to see conditions quiet down around midnight, and it looks much better for Wednesday. We could wake up to a couple of stray showers, but otherwise it looks much better after sunrise, and the rest of the day stays pretty quiet and dry with above average temperatures. This could be a heavy rainmaker event leading to 2 inches, possibly greater than that across some parts of the state. Also, western Maryland, that's where we could have some snow, but again, with those above freezing temperatures, a lot of what we see will transition into rain. 35 for the low temperature with increasing clouds. Then highs tomorrow will reach the upper 50s as we head into the evening and night. That's when we're going to hit our high. Notice wind gust around 40 miles per hour. This is followed by a much quieter day on Wednesday. We're looking at 50 by the afternoon with a mix of sunshine and clouds. Then expect plenty of sunshine on Thursday with highs around 52. 52 on Friday with the next round of showers. The rain continues into Saturday, 53 for the high. But behind that weather maker, expect a major cool down. We're looking at the 30s to start off next week. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Baltimore is spending nearly $75 million on its bike lane project. Why one economist says taxpayers should be concerned about that price tag.
COVID-19 is surging right now across the country, but what if it's not just COVID-19? I'm Liz Bonus. Combo virus is now showing up. We'll tell you about them just ahead.
COVID-19, the flu, and RSV are all going around. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares why the dangerous combination can lead to lingering symptoms.
Hey there, everybody. COVID-19 now surging across the country. 6 in 10 cases right now, according to the CDC, are from this new JN1 variant. But one of the reasons so many are sick is that it appears many are getting COVID-19 and another virus, too.
Oh, it's happening. I see it.
These combo viruses are showing up in both patients and healthcare workers, according to public health provider Dr. Steve Fagans.
Right now, it looks more overlap of either COVID or a bacterial pneumonia and RSV.
Some of it may be because we are now testing for all of these illnesses, including RSV. We didn't used to do that test often in adults. Is it important to test for both then to get the right treatment?
Yeah, great point. So what if you have RSV? What are you going to do differently other than symptomatic control and isolate? It's more important to know if you have COVID because that informs your isolation, and there's medicine. Same thing for influenza.
That medicine, of course, Paxlovid for COVID-19, Tamiflu for fighting the flu. Getting the right one soon after symptoms set in can keep you from hospitalization and severe complications. Does this mean you get more symptoms?
There are more symptoms. They're not double, but nonetheless, it is, that cold is like, this thing is longer than it should be. Well, maybe that means there's more than one, virus or more than one pathogen.
Dr. Fagan says give it about 7 to 10 days. If symptoms seem to get worse instead of better, reach out for medical attention. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a Baltimore mother who lost her daughter in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting sounds off on Maryland's juvenile justice laws. Her message to lawmakers and DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. A 16-year-old is shot in Baltimore and is the first homicide victim of 2024. The family's unanswered questions as neighbors sound the alarm on gun violence.
Just too many guns, too many murders.
The first murder victim of 2024 is now tragically confirmed to be a young person. The outrage Fox 45 is hearing from neighbors tonight.
All eyes are on the Department of Juvenile Services as the 2024 legislative session begins this week. The questions that remain about how DJS operates.
And I'm tracking our next weather maker, which will lead to heavy rain and gusty winds tomorrow. I'll let you know more on the threats the system brings in my Weather Authority forecast.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
In just 2 days, lawmakers will head back to Annapolis for the start of the 2024 legislative session.
That's right. The problem of violence is highlighted after city police confirm the first homicide of this year was a 16-year-old boy. According to the department, Noah Gibson was found shot to death in southwest Baltimore January 2nd. Fox 45 News spoke to neighbors who say that news was devastating.
It was a shame. Anytime I hear anything about, youngsters like that, getting killed, something like that, I say it's a shame. All that I do is just shake my head about it and just hope that it stops one day.
Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for staying with us. The violence comes as Fox 45 continues to hear ongoing frustration surrounding the effectiveness of the Department of Juvenile Services and the performance of its leader, Vincent Schiraldi. This is a topic expected to be front and center during the legislative session.
We have live team coverage beginning with Alexa Ashwell, who spoke with that teen's family. Alexa joins us live with the latest on the investigation. Alexa.
Yes, Noah Gibson was shot and killed just 1.5 miles from where he was a student right here at Carver Vocational Technical High School. According to his mother, he had just turned 16 weeks ago. The family now left with many unanswered questions. Baltimore's first homicide victim of 2024, identified by investigators as Noah Gibson, a 16-year-old Carver Vocational Technical High School student from Southwest Baltimore.
I've been living there for maybe about a year. I've been knowing just about a year.
Neighbors reacting, saddened and disturbed by the teen's murder. Investigators say officers found Gibson shot in an alley near Gorman Avenue after responding to a shot spotter alert around 2:15 on January 2nd. A neighbor's back alley camera picking up the sound of about 6 gunshots. But so far, who opened fire and why, unclear.
Just too many guns, too many murders.
Gibson is the first homicide victim of 2024, but also yet another young person impacted by the violence here in Baltimore. According to the teen's mother, Gibson had many siblings and described him as a good kid who loved to cook and play basketball.
I know she's probably gone crazy, probably done lost it, Probably somebody with her now, probably holding her. It was a shame. Anytime I hear anything about, youngsters like that, getting killed, something like that, I say it's a shame. All that I do is just shake my head about it and just hope that it stops one day.
Baltimore police not yet releasing any suspect information. No arrests have been made. Reporting live in Southwest Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you. The Department of Juvenile Services will be in the spotlight this week, and Secretary Vincent Schiraldi will be in the hot seat. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live with what's developing for this week. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, it's going to be a very busy week. Governor Wes Moore is expected to unveil his juvenile crime plan as well as his public safety legislative priorities tomorrow. And the governor will be joined with the leader of the DJS, and all eyes will be on the two of them to see if there really will be a push for any policy change.
Thank you all for joining us today.
After saying this,
the public will see our complete rollout prior to the legislative session.
Governor Wes Moore will make good on that promise Tuesday. He's expected to roll out his plan to address juvenile crime and public safety statewide. Standing with him, the man who many people are growing frustrated with.
I think Schiraldi really came out short.
Secretary Vincent Schiraldi facing criticism amid juvenile crime taking off around Maryland and a sense of little to no accountability for their actions. Those feelings on full display during a late December town hall in Baltimore City.
I think there's a lot more accountability he needs to answer to.
Do you think that he understands the problem that is going on?
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't have to understand because it doesn't affect him directly. It's a paycheck to him.
What do you want to hear from the secretary about what's going on?
His resignation. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think he gets it.
Despite pressure mounting for change, Governor Moore standing by his pick to lead DJS.
We needed to get a reformer, a person with a history of reforming systems inside of that seat.
Meanwhile, prosecutors, police, and parents all calling for change to the juvenile justice policies.
We can only hope that they'll not listen to just folks like me or my 23 colleagues across the state or the chief prosecutors in their counties, but hopefully they'll listen to their citizens, because their citizens are saying the exact same thing. Enough's enough.
They catch these kids, and then 2 hours later they're released.
If you do a crime, you've killed someone, you've stolen a car, you're committing theft repeatedly, I don't understand why there should not be a response.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable.
DJS is making moves ahead of lawmakers returning to Annapolis Wednesday. The intake director, responsible for making decisions about some juvenile cases moving forward at the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center, was replaced. A DJS spokesperson telling us an acting intake director was installed on December 21st. That staff shakeup coming after 2 teen suspects, 12 and 14 years old, were brought to the BCJJC after Baltimore City arrested them in connection to this violent attack near Patterson Park in November. The teens released to their families, facing no charges, and lawmakers like Senate President Bill Ferguson and Delegate Lou Clippinger demanding to know why the policy wasn't followed. Sources close to the investigation tell Fox 45 News that 12-year-old in the case is the same young kid who was picked up for robberies and stealing cars in Baltimore County more than a dozen times last summer. The personnel changes in line with what City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says is a culture Secretary Schiraldi is dealing with inside the department.
I believe, talking to Secretary Schiraldi, he really gets it. But I also think that he's dealing for culture and DJS, where you have individuals who just don't want to ever, no matter what young people do, ever want to have a young person detained. So he's fighting that culture.
But there remains to be questions about how cases are prosecuted.
Currently, they act as a bit of a gatekeeper because it's their intake officers who are making the decision whether the case should be charged immediately or should be charged later, but still charged, or even not charged at all.
Catherine Rosenblatt, the deputy chief of juveniles in the City State's Attorney's Office, says she has not seen a uniform process when it comes to making intake decisions. And that's why Bates says he wants some of the guessing removed from the process. Bates says last year,
almost 33% of those were individuals based on our research and analysis that says these are cases that should have gone to a juvenile magistrate, and DJS should not have been allowed to make the call. That's exactly why I've been yelling, screaming, tweak this law and just say DJS does not have a say, but yet let's give it straight to the judge automatically with certain offenses.
Now I'm hearing that there could be even more staff changes happening inside DJS. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Fox 45 News is holding your voice, your future town hall this Wednesday night on juvenile crime. Top prosecutors, including Ivan Bates, Aisha Braveboy, Scott Schellenberger, and Rich Gibson, will join us to discuss their legislative priorities for 2024. That's this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You can watch it live on foxbaltimore.com.
Plus, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will be in Annapolis following every step of this year's legislative session over the next 3 months. Keep up with our coverage on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Yesterday, we asked, what's your biggest concern as lawmakers return to Annapolis? The Department of Juvenile Services, juvenile crime, a budget deficit, all of the above, or something else. 89% of those who voted said all of the above.
And that brings us to today's question of the day. If lawmakers don't change the juvenile crime laws, should they be recalled? So far, 98% of those who voted say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
For the first time in 9 years, Baltimore saw the number of people killed in the city below 300 in 2023. And many believe Ivan Bates' tough on crime approach is part of the reason for that drop. Policies that Mayor Brandon Scott says he supports.
That's right. But as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor's reporting, critics say he was less vocal when it came to addressing the very different policies of Marilyn Mosby. Rebecca joins us live now with more. Rebecca?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, now that the city's homicide rates are finally seeing significant improvement, Mayor Scott has been eager to embrace a new city state's attorney. But in the past, when given the opportunity to denounce the previous administration's policies, Mayor Scott, time and time again, remaining silent. Take a listen.
I am focused about my work. I don't have time with the amount of stuff happening in Baltimore to worry about other people's work.
Are you saying that the state's attorney's office isn't doing their job?
No, I'm saying that we, as I've said to you before, Mackenzie, that what we are doing, what I am doing is ending these generations of fingerprints. I'm not going to continue to get dragged into this progressive versus this versus that. I do what's best for Baltimore.
No, immediately after taking office, one of the first things Ivan Bates did was throw out the progressive non-prosecution policies of his predecessor, Marilyn Mosby. Political analyst Richard Vatt says that's likely the most crucial change that brought the city's annual homicides below 300. Vatt's adding that if Mayor Scott would have spoken out against Mosby's controversial policies sooner, Vatt also believes that last year's historic crime reduction could have come much sooner as well.
He appears to genuinely want to reduce violence, but he doesn't appear to ever be willing to take courageous steps, one of which would be when he had an totally irresponsible state's attorney, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say anything even half critical of her until she's out of office.
And even now that Marilyn Mosby is out of office, at a press conference last week, Mayor Scott still refusing to answer when asked if his support of the former city state's attorney could have hurt the city's crime fight. Reporting live from outside of City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. 8 days into the new year, more than 100 cars have been stolen in Baltimore. Over the weekend, a series of break-ins happened outside of a church in East Baltimore. Police say the break-ins happened during worship service, and one of the cars was stolen from the lot. Days before that, police arrested 3 teens in connection to an armed carjacking in Northwest Baltimore. Investigators say those teens carjacked a man at gunpoint on Park Heights Avenue, and they were arrested hours later after an officer spotted them and the stolen car near Reisterstown Road. Police say data shows 11,000 vehicles were stolen in 2023, and some critics say the problem should be a top priority for lawmakers.
It's a serious public safety hazard because these cars they're stolen. Usually it's juveniles that are doing it.
Lawmakers could certainly make sure that those that are caught stealing cars get punished and get punished properly.
Well, police are investigating the car break-ins and the car that was stolen outside the church. If you have a story about a stolen car or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in car thefts, we'd like to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to us at news@foxbaltimore.com.
Well, right now you're taking a live look at the Inner Harbor and our weather radar tracking conditions across our region. Tonight, Fox 45 is preparing for our next weather maker that could bring heavy rain and strong wind to parts of Maryland. Let's check back in with meteorologist Jasmine Lomax for the latest on the system, which will put us back into weather alert mode and when we can expect it to hit. Jasmine?
Thanks, Mary. We are keeping close watch on that system. Right now, it's leading to impacts across the country with the rain and snow and some storms. But for us, we're primarily talking heavy rain and gusty winds. We'll start feeling those impacts tomorrow morning, and likely as soon as you wake up, we start with the rain across the state. It continues into the afternoon. We could be looking at heavy rain at times, and that could cause some flooding concerns, especially in low-lying and coastal areas. Into the evening, we're still tracking that system, but overnight the rain will gradually taper, and it's looking a little quieter once we make our way into Wednesday. However, over the weekend, another weather maker moves in. So here's what we're tracking. We have a low pressure system, and ahead of that, a couple of fronts. We've got a cold front leading to severe storms, and then a warm front seeing some storms ahead of that as well. Notice all of the alerts in place across the country. I'll let you know what we're expecting here and the alerts that we're under currently in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, an economist puts Baltimore's bike lane project under the microscope. His concerns about the price tag and the effect that could have on your tax dollars.
And questions tonight surrounding the U.S. Defense Secretary's health after the Pentagon allegedly kept his hospitalization a secret for days. The reaction rolling in from top lawmakers.
Up next, how are our Fox 45 viewers getting into playoff mode? We'll take a look at some of our favorite pictures and videos coming in from you.
Sunday afternoon, the AFC playoff picture was set with the 7 teams in. And by late last night, seeding in the wild card weekend schedule came out. 3 games the Ravens will be sitting at home watching as they enjoy their playoff bye as the 1 seed. Unlike 2019, when rust played a factor the last time the Ravens won the AFC North and had home field advantage for the playoffs and got bounced in the divisional round, the Ravens will practice a full week this postseason starting Wednesday. It is a bye week. Use that mentality while keeping the main thing the main thing. They want a playoff run.
Now we have an opportunity and challenge to take it into the postseason and play the best football that we possibly can. And I'm excited for our guys to do that, and I know they're going to work hard to prepare to do that.
We've written a lot of pages in our book right now that set us up pretty good right now. So, you know, we got a week to prepare, then find out who we got to play, then we go into that.
Here's the AFC playoff picture. Ravens on that bye. Other division winners are the Bills, Chiefs, and Texans. The wild cards, 2 in the AFC North with the Browns and Steelers. Miami in the middle of that as the 6th seed. Browns, Texans, and then Dolphins, Chiefs. Those are the games Saturday. The AFC wild card ends Sunday with the Steelers, Bills. The Ravens find out Sunday their opponent, date and time. The divisional round is here, either January 20th or 21st. As the 1 seed, the Ravens get the lowest AFC remaining after that wild card round. And due to the 4-5 matchup, we know it cannot be the Bills or Chiefs, but it could be the Browns, Texans, Dolphins, or Steelers. All teams they face this season going 3-3 against them.
Morgan, thank you. And as the Ravens gear up for the playoffs, let's see how our Fox 45 viewers are showing off their purple pride. Adrian sending us these photos of her, Alistair, and Audrey, all decked out in their Ravens finest. I think it's Alistair. And look at that bedazzled jacket. Talk about cheering on your favorite team in style. We love it. Y'all look great. And the purple fashion doesn't stop there. No, it does not. Check out Rosalind. She's showing off her Ravens statement necklace and the spirit of her those are cool, of her fingers. Look at those gloves. I love them. Rosalind says those funky gloves were actually a gift from a Dallas Cowboys fan, as it should be. And there's nothing wrong with some good old friendly competition. Arnold sending us this picture proving that no matter what team you are rooting for, football is all about family and community. Arnold, I, too, am in a house divided. And win or lose, we want to see how you are celebrating the Ravens as they prepare for the playoffs. Just scan that QR code right there on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com, where you can upload your pictures and your videos. Keep sending them in. We love them. It is all powered by Stackla.
It has been a beautiful and quiet day, but tomorrow our next weather maker is coming and it will lead to heavy rain and gusty winds. A pretty active day, and you really want to make sure that you are staying weather alert. Right now, though, we are enjoying a nice sunset as temperatures are in the mid-40s here in Baltimore with few clouds. Around the rest of the state, we're seeing temperatures in the 40s for a nice and quiet evening. It looks good if you'll be out and about. However, it's going to look completely different tomorrow as we get ready for our next weather maker. High pressure will exit our region, and as that happens, more clouds move in and we get ready for this next system. This powerful weather maker is leading to areas of snow and rain and storms. For us, we're tracking heavy rain across the state and at times gusty winds. A flood watch is in place for all of the locations in green, and then we're keeping watch on coastal areas especially. We could have some inundation leading to flooding around the coast. A coastal flood warning is in place, and again, we're talking about those heavy winds. A wind advisory is in place for all of the spots in tan. We could have gusts up to 40 miles per hour, and with those strong winds, there's the possibility for a few downed power lines. Make sure to have multiple ways of receiving any alerts that are issued. The impacts start early tomorrow morning. We'll wake up to a couple of stray showers, but as we get closer to 7, 8, 9 o'clock, that rain will become a little more widespread, lasting into the afternoon with heavy rain possible. And then notice for the evening, still looking at heavy rain around the state. As we continue into the night, we finally start to see that heavy rain taper. Will be mostly dry after midnight. There could be a couple of stray showers early Wednesday morning, but by sunrise, we're back to mostly dry weather with a few clouds lingering. It looks good, though, for the afternoon as temperatures stay above average, reaching the upper 40s and the low 50s. In terms of rainfall totals, we could see over 2 inches of rain for some spots. That could lead to issues with ponding and flooding in low-lying areas. So again, make sure to have multiple ways to receive alerts. 35 for the low temperature tonight with more clouds moving in. Then tomorrow we're looking at 57, which we're going to hit that high in the evening and into the night. Our wind gusts could exceed 40 miles per hour, so if you have any outdoor belongings that you need to bring in, you want to do that tonight. 50 for the high temperature tomorrow, and it'll be much drier. Then expect plenty of sunshine on Thursday with highs around 52. 52 again on Friday as we get ready for the next chance for rain. We'll have some more rain overnight leading into Saturday, 53 for the high. After that, expect a major cool down. We're looking at high temperatures only in the upper 30s to start the upcoming week. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead, a Baltimore mother who lost her daughter in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, sounding off on Maryland's juvenile justice laws. Her message to lawmakers and DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi.
I'm Keela Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, the latest on the defense secretary's hospital stay and the communication breakdown that has led critics to question leadership at the Pentagon.
White House officials say Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will keep his job after a massive communication breakdown where the Pentagon failed to tell the White House that Austin was in the hospital. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
For days, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was hospitalized at Walter Reed, handing power to his second in command. And no one told the president.
The handling of this by the Secretary of Defense is totally unacceptable.
It's a communication breakdown with serious national security implications. And it came at a time when two close U.S. allies, Israel and Ukraine, are at war. The defense secretary is second in command only to the president when it comes to making military decisions.
When you're the Secretary of Defense, you need to make everyone aware that you're actually going to be out of pocket. Apparently, the National Security Council didn't know it, the White House didn't know it, Congress didn't know it. We're at a time of a lot of turmoil internationally.
In a Truth Social post, former President Donald Trump said Austin should be fired for dereliction of duty. Austin was admitted to Walter Reed Monday, January 1st, for complications following an elective surgery. On Tuesday, he transferred power to his deputy, Kathleen Hicks, who was on vacation in Puerto Rico. Multiple sources say Hicks wasn't aware of why she was given control. On Thursday, the Pentagon finally told the White House the defense secretary was out of commission. Congress wasn't informed until Friday, just hours before the Pentagon released a statement to the public.
I do hope that every person in the cabinet recognizes that this was not an appropriate step, not an appropriate way to handle what was his hospitalization.
Virginia Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger said once the secretary is fully recovered, Congress deserves answers.
Hopefully there will be greater transparency, at least within the administration.
In a statement Saturday, Austin took full responsibility for the decisions about disclosing his condition. The 70-year-old has resumed full authority.
The Democrat and Republican leaders of the House Armed Services Committee releasing a joint statement calling for concrete consequences for how the situation was handled. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Baltimore is spending nearly $75 million on its bike lane project. Coming up, why one economist says taxpayers should be concerned.
President Biden's biggest supporters letting him know it may be time to change strategies in order for him to stay in office for another 4 years. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington. I'll explain how coming up.
From Falls Road to your road, Baltimore is ramping up its construction of bike lanes.
And in many neighborhoods, they're also bringing a huge amount of frustration with them. Tonight, Fox 45's Jeff Abel examines the costs and concerns that go beyond tax dollars.
Well, by the time the city finishes installing all of its bike lanes, planners estimate the cost to taxpayers will rank more than $72 million. And analysts predict most taxpayers will get little return on their money.
In neighborhood after neighborhood, drivers are struggling with the sounds of congestion.
The flow has tremendously slowed up, backed up, and I've been sitting here, I don't know, feel like at least 15 minutes just stop and go.
On many roadways, traffic lanes are being eliminated to accommodate bike lanes. On this stretch of Harford Road, what was once 4 lanes of traffic is now 2 lanes, forcing blocks of backed up traffic and no bikes in sight.
What about widening the street and making room for them? But narrowing it, no.
Who's managing the money?
Many residents say they were never consulted before disruption became a permanent part of their lives, and the cost of disruption isn't cheap.
And who's making certain that for every dollar spent, there is a benefit that is tangible to the taxpayer?
In documents obtained by FOX45, the amount of city, state, and federal tax dollars spent on Baltimore's bike lanes so far amounts to $21.1 million. That's enough to pay for 60 new trash trucks or 5,300 new streetlights.
But I don't think the average person has any idea how much money is being wasted on silly projects that have no impact, no positive impact on the great majority of the people.
In fact, in emails to Baltimore City Council members this week, we ask how many tax dollars are being spent on constructing and maintaining bicycle lanes in your district on an annual basis. We received no replies.
It's a lot of expense, and it's not obvious to me that we're actually benefiting society from a broader benefit.
Economist Anaban Basu predicts bike lanes could produce an even greater cost, one that's more environmental than financial.
If the result of this is to cause more vehicular congestion, so cars are sitting in traffic longer, waiting for this light and that light, so on and so forth, guess what you get? You actually get worse environmental outcomes as you're trying to promote a cleaner environment and more biking.
The city's goal is to have 77 miles of bike lanes complete in the next 4 years. So far, it's only a third of the way there. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Former Mayor Jack Young signed off on a pro-bike lane proposal 5 years ago, but now he says he regrets that decision.
My thought was that we need to have alternative for people who ride bikes to be able to get around the city, but not to the magnitude of this. You know, it's just totally ridiculous how they're building all these bike lanes, putting these flex lanes up, and the streets look a mess.
Young is calling for a moratorium on bike lanes across the city, as are some city residents who say they were never consulted about the redesign of the roads in their communities. Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on the debate surrounding Baltimore's bike lanes. You can find our complete coverage online at foxbaltimore.com.
You put this in place, so they're obeying the laws that you put in place. And we have to live with the consequences of that. There's no way you can tell me that they can't get a hold on this crime right now. There's no way you can tell me that.
Maryland lawmakers head back to Annapolis for the start of the session on Wednesday. Juvenile crime will be a focus for many across the state, including Crystal Gonzalez. The Baltimore mother lost her daughter in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting and says lawmakers need to act now to prevent future tragedies. In an interview with Fox 45's Vincent Hill, Gonzalez was vocal about what needs to change in terms of juvenile justice laws and the concerns she has regarding the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi.
I don't have much to say about that. I mean, I believe we've all seen the evidence of what his practices are. It's not working. It's not working, you know. I don't have much else to say about that. They know right from wrong. So I can hear you tell me that no one, well, a child under the age of 25 shouldn't be in an adult system. Well, here we know we have a lot of adult things that we do between the ages of our teen years and 25. But when you have a violent offender commit a violent act, all of a sudden he don't know better. That is insane to me.
Gonzalez tells Fox 45 the state needs to start from ground zero when it comes to current juvenile laws.
I heard, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but he was responding to something that I said, and he says, you know, I applaud her for speaking out, but we can't go back to some of the practices that have proven not profitable or not beneficial for our communities. And I say to him, you haven't gone back far enough. We haven't gone back far enough because we didn't have this decades ago.
For Vincent's full interview with Crystal Gonzalez, including heartbreaking details the night of the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Today, Maryland's Safe Haven, a leading advocacy organization for transgender rights, held a rally for justice, demanding accountability for Megan Lewis, the transgender victim who was shot and killed by a delivery driver in Harford County, according to police. Back in December, police say the suspect, 47-year-old Brian Dellin, and Lewis were arguing in the parking lot when Dellis, according to police, shot Lewis. The group is calling for accountability and transparency while also demanding equal justice for transgender people. And they are also upset that Dellin was released from custody.
Harford County is sending a message to LGBTQ folks at the end of the day that they're not giving out justice to transgender people. As a sanctuary, Maryland, we expect to get justice right here in this backyard. Harford County, is this the message that you're putting out to LGBTQ folks? Is it safe in Harford County for LGBTQ folks to find this place as a sanctuary, as Maryland said it was a sanctuary? Harford County is showing at the end of the day that our gender identity means nothing. A person is out today on murder charges on his personal recognizance that is unheard of. I've seen many folks locked up for theft and their bond was revoked. Today we stand in solidarity with our trans sibling to say at the end of the day, we need justice for Megan Lewis, and please, Harford County, do not sweep this under the rug.
In a statement just this morning, the Harford County State's Attorney said in part, the loss of any life in our community is devastating. The evidence in this case will be thoroughly evaluated in the same manner as any case presented to our office for prosecution. And as always, the State's Attorney's Office remains committed to seeking justice. In the meantime, Dellin is facing multiple charges, including second-degree murder.
Of a Baltimore County high school teacher smoking an unknown substance with students has people talking. This was video recorded last January in 2023. It begins with the teacher who Project Baltimore is not identifying, or teen, because she's a minor. So Project in Baltimore is not identifying that teen. The teen is sitting outside a table with 3 other people, including 2 other teens and a woman in a hooded sweatshirt. That person is identified as Spraker. 14 seconds into the video, the teenager pauses as Spraker leans over and offers her an unknown substance. The teenager inhales and blows smoke into the camera, and the video ends. Project Baltimore has confirmed all 3 teens in the video are students at Parkville High. The woman in the sweatshirt is identified as 25-year-old Sierra Spraker, a social studies teacher at Parkville High. Project Baltimore spoke with a current Parkville student who we're not identifying, who says the teacher's actions are unacceptable.
She's fairly young in her teaching career, so she knows how teenagers think, she knows how they act, and I just thought that it was a disgusting thing to do, knowing that these kids are, I mean, they jump at an opportunity to do that with, you know, the cool teacher.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, what the school system is saying about the video and how this student thinks it should be handled.
While Donald Trump appears primed to have a big night in Iowa next week, that's if the polls hold true, there's a different kind of stumping going on in the South involving President Biden, and as warning signals go out. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains.
All eyes are now on Iowa.
And if we turn out, this is going to be a really, really special night for us.
We have to win this. We have to win it big. Go out and caucus.
As the political world focuses on Iowa with just 1 week before ballots are cast, far away in Charleston, South Carolina, President Biden is engaged in his own critical push.
And with your help, I made Juneteenth the first federal holiday since Dr. Martin Luther King Day.
In a state that secured his 2020 nomination, the congressman credited with saving Biden's White House hopes then now sees serious pitfalls.
How worried are you about black voters showing up for President Biden in November?
I'm very concerned, and I have sat down with President Biden. My problem is that we have not